Hi folks, welcome back. Now we have had to have a slight change to the advertised schedule. We will not be going for a jaunt in the Russian Mi-8T helicopter. It ran into some, technical issues.
By technical issues you mean, you dropped it.
What? No. No, not at all.
He dropped it, everyone. Look, I've got a picture. See, dropped it.
Okay, yes, there may have been a handling mishap. But the Mi-8 will come back as a crash scene diorama.
Once he gets over the fact he dropped like a plonker.
Yes, thank you for that, Natalia. Can I get back to this video now?
Sure. Jet go zoom.
Thanks. So after the technical issues,
Dropped it. Sorry.
I arranged for our time with this airframe to be brought forward. Today we'll be taking to the skies in the English Electric Lightning F2A. So let's button up and roll out. The kit for this sortie is the English Electric Lightning F2A from Airfix. Product code A04054A and retails for about £25 depending on where you look. The kit was originally tooled in 2013 and has had several box art refreshes in the past 13 years. Inside you'll find 4 sprues. 3 in grey plastic and 1 crystal sprue containing all the 92 parts for this build. You'll also find a decal sheet with 2 sets of squadron markings and matching paint schemes. It also comes with a skill level of 2. Although with my experience of skill ratings they are completely made up and have no correlation to how difficult the kit actually is. The kit is very good, well 95% very good. No flash on the parts, as you would expect from mold so new. Instructions are nice and clear and not too many small or very flimsy parts, but I skipped the landing gear down option so that may introduce some small parts. But with the gear up, the covers fit nicely into the cutouts on the wings. The nose gear however was an issue, but it stemmed from an internal part being too wide off the sprue and needs some extensive filing down. Which I found out after I stuck the front end together and couldn't get the 2 halves of the fuselage together, resulting in some imperfect repairs and filling resulting in the canopy, cockpit and front landing gear door not sitting properly. There are also plenty of very small decals or long thin ones. Thankfully I had bit the bullet and bought some decal solutions which has made them go on really nice once I got them laying somewhat correctly. I wouldn't recommend this as your first kits, definitely need a few models on your shelf before tackling this one as for the extensive fit issues around the nose, or at least do your research as this is a known issue with this kit and I could have easily fixed it, if I knew it was a problem. It's a 7 out of 10 kit. It does look really good once it's all built and painted. It's just getting it there is more of a chore than you expect. Technical specifications. Country of origin, United Kingdom. Manufacturer, English Electric and British Aircraft Corporation. Total built, 337, including prototypes. Type, Interceptor, Fighter. Primary users, Royal Air Force, Kuwait Air Force, Royal Saudi Air Force. First flight, April 1957. Entered into frontline service, July 1960. Status, retired from service. Crew, 1. Length, 55 feet 3 inches, 16.84 meters. Wingspan, 34 feet 10 inches, 10.62 meters. Height, 19 feet 7 inches, 5.97 meters. Wing area, 474.5 square feet, 44.08 square meters. Weight, 11,567 kilograms empty, 18,008 max. Power plant, 2 times Rolls-Royce RA.24 R Avon Mk.211 R at 50.04 kN. Max speed, Mach 2.2 at 40,000 feet. Range, 849 miles, 1,367 kilometers, 738 mi. Combat range, 155 miles, 250 kilometers, 135 mi, supersonic intercept radius. Ferry range, 920 miles, 1,500 kilometers, 800 mi, internal fuel, 1,100 mi, 1,300 miles, 2,000 kilometers, with external tanks. Endurance, 35 minutes. Service ceiling, 60,000 feet, 18,000 meters. Zoom ceiling, 70,000 feet, 21,000 meters. Rate of climb, 20,000 feet per minute, 100 meters per second, sustained to 30,000 feet, 9,100 meters, zoom climb 50,000 feet per minute. Time to altitude, 2.8 minutes to 36,000 feet, 11,000 meters. Wing loading, 76 pounds per square feet, 370 kilograms per square meter, F.6 with red top missiles and 1/2 fuel. Thruster weight, 0.78, 1.03 empty. Armament. Guns, 2 times 30 mm, 1.181 in, Aiden cannon. Hardpoints, 2 times forward fuselage. Missiles, 2 times de Havilland Firestreak. The English Electric, later British Aircraft Corporation, Lightning was a Cold War-era fighter interceptor capable of supersonic flight up to speeds in excess of twice the speed of sound, Mach 2. The Lightning story began with the cancellation of the Air Ministry's 1942 specification E.24 of 43 supersonic research aircraft. Teddy Petter, who was chief designer at Westland Aircraft, was hired by English Electric in 1944 to develop aircraft rather than make others' designs. He was a keen proponent of Britain making its own supersonic fighter. In July 1947, he went to the Ministry of Supply with his proposal and as a result, specification ER-103 for a single research aircraft which was capable of Mach 1.5, 1.5 times the speed of sound, at an altitude of 50,000 feet, or 15,000 meters. By July 1948, Petter's proposal, with Frederick Page designing and Ray Creasy taking charge of the aerodynamics, had developed into an airframe with a twin engine stacked vertically, a high tailplane and wings swept back to an angle of 40 degrees to keep in clear of the Mach cone. This design proposal was submitted in November 1948 and by January the following year the project was designated the P1 by English Electric themselves. In March 1949 the Ministry of Supply authorized the construction of a detailed models, wind tunnel test models and a full-scale mock-up. Further refinement of the design to improve the performance taking cues from the CAC CA-23. With the goal to hit Mach 2, the wing sweep was increased to 60 degrees and the low-speed wind tunnel tests revealed a vortex coming off the wings causing a downwash onto the tailplane, which would lead to difficulties in controlling the aircraft. This was quickly solved by moving it lower to be below the wing level. 1949 led to a specification to introduce fighter-level maneuvering. Finally in April 1950 English Electric was awarded a contract for 2 flying airframes and a static display model. However, folks at the Royal Aircraft Establishment disagreed with the 60-degree sweep and low tailplane layout and wasted 4 years trying to prove that it wasn't effective only for it to be the correct design all along. In 1953 manufacture of the 3 prototype began. These were all hand-built at Samlesbury Aerodrome, which ended up as the birthplace of all Lightnings. These original airframes had UN reheated Armstrong Siddeley Saphines engines and were very underpowered, requiring them to be at 100% power to just keep a steady speed in level flight. Side note, back then afterburner was known as reheat. Engines from Rolls-Royce were being delayed with some developmental issues. There was no space for go-go juice inside the main body, so it was stored inside the thin wings, sharing the space with landing gear. The range of flying prototypes was very limited as a result, which was increased for the production models as they only had to have a 150-mile combat radius to protect bomber bases. They found that the narrow tires wore excessively when taking off or landing in strong winds. Outwardly, apart from not having a nose cone for the radar and all the weapons, these airframes looked the same as the final production models that would enter service. In 1954 the prototype with the serial number WG760 and supporting equipment to RAF Boscombe down for pre-flight taxi trials. On the 4th of August, 1954, with test pilot Roland Bearmorn at the controls, the Lightning took to the sky for the first time, and it went through the sound barrier, but no one knew until a few days later thanks to the Mach meter not being calibrated properly and it only indicated Mach 0.95. The Lightning being surprisingly fast with so little drama would become a recurring theme with all who flew in them. A week later, on only its 3rd test flight, Bearmorn took WG760 officially through the sound barrier, finding the aircraft to be very stable, like it was flying at subsonic speeds. Britain now had its own supersonic jet. But, before these prototypes even began to build in 1952, a second wave of prototypes was ordered. These 3 prototypes were designated P1B and had the goal of getting the Lightning to Mach 2. Retrospectively, the P1 became the P1A. The Bs were a huge improvement over the As while still being similar in many ways. The forward fuselage was changed massively, Rolls-Royce Avon R24R reheating engines, its nose cone on the jet air intake, variable nozzle reheat and provisions for weapon systems to be integrated with ADC and AI-23 radar. May 1956, the P1 officially received the Lightning name, apparently due to its supersonic speed, and one would think that this was the end of it. The Lightning entered production where it served for many years, but it almost didn't. In 1955, the Air Ministry learned that the Soviets had a shiny new supersonic bomber, the Tupolev Tu-22, and was expected to enter service in 1962. The Tu-22 could cruise for long periods at Mach 1.2 and dash up to Mach 1.5. None of the RAF jets and their paired missiles currently in service could shoot this thing down. This was a big problem. In 1957, Prime Minister Duncan Sandys announced a defense white paper outlining that defense against Soviet aggression would be down to missile defense batteries, believing that after the mid-60s nuclear-tipped ballistic missiles would be the only things they would send. So interceptor jets wouldn't be needed. Someone pointed out the missile systems proposed wouldn't be ready until after the Tu-22 entered service. This left a gap in Britain's defenses. Sandys acknowledged this point, and the P1, which was flying, and the improved P1B was only weeks away from its first test flight. Combining its speed and the Firestreak missile could easily chase down and engage Tu-22s from the rear, making it a potent threat. These would both be ready long before any ground-based system. To further this argument, an upgraded missile known as the Red Top could shoot down enemy bombers while coming at them head-on, not just from the rear, and could target ones even faster than the Tu-22 was predicted to be. The jet, which for many years didn't really have a mission beyond testing, was now going to be on the front line with the RAF as the English Electric Lightning F1. The pre-production P1BS arrived at RAF Coltishall in Norfolk on the 23rd of December, 1959 and joined the Air Fighting Development Squadron, AFDS. Their final clearance for entry into service took place, and completing this by May 1960, and participated in Exercise Yeoman later that month. 74 Squadron RAF, also based at Coltishall, received the first of the full production Lightning F1S in July 1960, making it the second Western European-built, fully supersonic-capable fighter to enter full front-line service. The first being the Swedish-built Saab 35 Draken in March 1960. The pilots of 74 Squadron loved the Lightning. It was agile and easy to fly, its missiles and radar were very effective, and it was terrifyingly fast. One quote comes to mind that goes, "I was with it all the way, until I let the handbrake off." They loved the power and the speed. It could climb from 100 feet to 30,000 feet in 90 seconds, perfectly vertical, and break the sound barrier while doing it. It was the only thing for many years that had the sheer raw power to keep up with Concorde, the supersonic passenger jet, and reach the U-2 spy plane. However, there were some teething issues, mainly around its electrical systems and how difficult it was to get spare parts. 74 Squadron struggled to get 20 flying hours a month per aircraft, half what it should have been by English Electric's estimates. After 6 months, these issues were ironed out, and the squadron managed to get 100 flying hours a month per aircraft across training and operational duties and representing Fighter Command as the official aerobatic team for 1961. They toured air shows all over the UK and Europe, wowing crowds everywhere it went. But this is the price you pay when you're fielding anything new, let alone something on the bleeding edge of aircraft technology. Soon an improved version, the F1A, arrived. Its main upgrade being an air-to-air refueling probe, allowing it to stay in the air much longer, although it would be like a hummingbird constantly drinking sweet Zoom nectar. During this time, 2 more squadrons were converted to operate Lightnings. The F1 as a whole was a limited run, with the F2 coming along to replace it. The original F1S moving to conversion squadron for pilots to train on before entering a frontline squadron. These conversion flights were a serious eye-opener for young pilots. Many tales of them going supersonic on their first flight as it accelerated to fast, and many occurrences of front landing gear still being deployed at altitudes above 10,000 feet. The issue being that the front gear folded forward into the fuselage and the air resistance was so great it would stop it folding away. Did I tell you that the Lightning was fast? Oh, I did. Well, guess what, it got faster. During its service life, the Lightning was steadily upgraded, with new avionics, bigger fuel tanks, an upgraded missile in the red top. It got its Aden cannons back. Yes, back. This was a common theme for NATO fighters in the 60s. Oh, and of course more powerful engines. The final version, the F6. Many of the earlier versions were upgraded to this specification, and its final form came with new wings with better efficiency and subsonic performance, over-wing fuel tanks and a larger ventral, belly, fuel tank, reintroduction of 30mm cannon, initially no cannon but later in the forward part of the ventral pack rather than in the nose, use of red-top missiles. There were various trainers in a side-by-side twin-seat configuration. The Lightning was exported to Kuwait and Saudi Arabia under the designations of F-52 and F-53. The F-52 went to Saudi Arabian Air Force was a used F-2 that was slightly modified. The F-53 was a built-to-order version for export of the F-6 but with pylons for bombs and rockets. Saudi Arabia and Kuwait purchased 47 between them. These export versions saw action with the Royal Saudi Air Force as a multi-role fighter running air defense, recon, and ground attack missions. 3 total aircraft were lost, 2 in accidents and 1 to enemy ground fire over Yemen. The pilot ejected safely and was rescued by Allied forces. In RAF service, it never fired on an enemy aircraft in anger. It did, however, shoot down a friendly aircraft. And no, it wasn't an accident. In 1972, a pilot ejected from a Harrier jump jet over West German, but it kept on going. To prevent a diplomatic incident, or stop it getting into Soviet hands, take your pick, a Lightning was tasked to shoot it down. 2 years later, the Lightning started to be phased out. From 1974 to 1988, Lightnings were retired from service. Despite upgrades, it still lacked range, had limited payload capacity and took a lot of maintenance to keep flying. Its direct replacement was the Panavia Tornado. It was a little bit faster, had way better avionics and could carry a bigger payload. After its life in military service, many Lightnings went on to be gate guardians at many air bases around the world, into museum care or restoration, private ownership. Jeremy Clarkson bought one as a garden feature, which as an 8-year-old kid was the coolest thing ever. Some managed to fly for a few more years, eventually ended as display pieces. However, one may yet still live and take to the sky again. The Anglo-American Lightning Association is trying to return the T5 trainer to airworthy status, and as of March 2021, XS422 was able to complete fast taxiing on a runway. The Lightning was a groundbreaking aircraft for its time, and it was the blueprint for all super and subsonic combat aircraft that followed. Swept wings, low tail planes, super cruise, the ability to travel faster than Mach 1 without reheat or afterburner, and the hand-on throttle and stick, HOTAS, cockpit layout. Even in its twilight years, it showed much new fighters how it was done. Shaming F-14 Tomcats, F-15 Eagles, F-16 Falcons, Mirages and F-104 Starfighters being the only aircraft to overtake Concorde in an aerial drag race. Many of these aircraft were newer, lighter and grossly over-engineered after Uncle Sam fell for Soviet overselling. The Lightning was a true Cold War legend. Well, that's all for this trip, folks. Hope you enjoyed our ride through the sound barrier after promising something with a more relaxed pace, and if you did, please do the usual YouTube pleasantries and check out my friends at Vixen Miniatures for 3D printed minis and accessories. So, with no hint as to what is coming next, as I don't trust myself to not drop a clanger, until next time. Dismount and brew up.